Vancouver Island, British Columbia, the west coast of Canada. On the south half of Vancouver Island, the Beaufort Mountain Range, Cathedral Grove to Comox Lake, backbone of Vancouver Island. The Alberni Fjord or Canal in Port Alberni separates South Vancouver Island from North Vancouver Island. The Beaufort Mountain Range from Cathedral Grove to Wolf Creek is the most important wildlife corridor on Vancouver Island. Ignored during the Vancouver Island land use talks because of its land classification. Private industrial forest land in the Forest Land Reserve. No effective protection for water, wildlife, and wild salmon. Wild coho salmon spawning in the many small salmon creeks under the Beaufort. The water that comes from the mountains depends on the stability of the snowpacks and feeder streams that supply the creeks in the valley below. The Beaufort is extremely steep and fragile with complicated hydrologies. Old-growth Douglas fir and hemlock last to the Deer Winter Range. Looking up from Mount Arrowsmith towards the Beauforts, we see the Cherry Creek area, Kixuxus Creek. Below in the valley is McLean's Mill Salmon Hatchery. Moving up, we see Mount Irwin, with its eroded areas from previous logging, but also significant areas of mixed old-growth Douglas fir. The Hal Creek Gorge, Mount Hal, again old logged eroded areas, but significant areas of old growth, last of the Deer Winter Ranges. Mount Joan and the Wolf Creek Gorge, end of the populated area of the Alberni Valley. We look up the Beaufort toward the Courtenay area. Water is stored in snowpacks, shaded and protected by trees on the mountains. If these snowpacks melt prematurely, then runoff comes early, causing erosion and the drying of summer streams. Across these steep mountains, Joan, Hal, and Irwin, is the Fanny Bay area to Qualicum, Rosewall, Nile Creek, and the Qualicum River, a few of the 25 salmon streams on the east side of the Beauforts. On the Alberni Valley side, Cherry, Kixuxus, Deer, Hal, Wolsey, a few of the many spawning creeks and drainages of the Beaufort that supplies cold, moderating water to the Stamp-Somas Salmon River system. Homeowners, farmers, and taxpayers on both sides of these mountains get their water from this watershed. The biodiversity of Vancouver Island wildlife, deer, elk, cougar, bear, and wolf depend on the winter ranges and stability of the wildlife corridor. In the 1990s, government and industry authored the private land forest regulations. These after-the-fact regulations are criticized as weak and ineffective to protect these public resources. The Beaufort Mountain Range Watershed Protection Committee, along with supporting organizations, have requested provincial and federal governments for protection of these resources. Salmon enhancement groups, First Nations, members of regional aquatic management, commercial trawler fleets, commercial sports fishing organizations, Alberni Valley Environmental Coalition, West Coast Wilderness Committee, BC Wildlife Federation, local citizens, farmers, landowners, and local government, Alberni Clayoquot Regional District, Alberni Valley Committee have all supported and requested effective law co-management between government and forest companies and land purchases on the Beaufort. This situation is terrible. The most important wildlife corridor on Vancouver Island has been ignored because of its land classification. Huge salmon values depend on the water on both sides of the mountains, as well as drinking water for thousands of people directly and indirectly. Take note, David Anderson, Minister of Environment, Federal Government, and Herb Dhaliwal, Minister of Fisheries and Oceans. Take note, Premier Ujjal Desans and your Minister of Environment and Forestry, BC. The citizens demand long-term protection, a continuity of protection for water, fish, and wildlife. We ask you to act now.